Welcome to this tutorial. I'm glad to have you in this particular tutorial to discuss another episode of JavaScript topic, and we are moving to the next one, and that is the control structures. So control structures is a very important principle that each and every web developer should know in terms of web development, because sometimes you want to make decision, sometimes you'll want to determine how many times somebody is supposed to give input. All this is supposed to be dictated through what we call control structures. Now in this segment we are going to discuss about one type of control structure, and then in another episode or in another tutorial we'll be able to discuss the rest. Now let's dive in and see what control structures is all about. Now when you talk about control structure, basically you mean the ability to determine the flow of the program. Now if you want to determine how the program is supposed to run, then we say that you are putting in place what we call control structures. Now in control structures there are three types of control structures. The first type is what we call the sequential control structure. So when you talk about sequential, it's just the normal flow of the program. There is nothing that there is no condition whatsoever that should be met in order for a certain program to execute a certain output. So that's what we call sequential, a normal flow of the program. Now you come to conditional, whereby a user supposed to make a decision. The program is meant to make a decision between maybe a certain part to be executed, and if that particular part is not executed, you can give a command for the other part to be executed. We are going to see types of those conditional structures. And finally we talk about iteration. Iteration basically is the repetitive nature of a certain section of your program. Okay, so we'll be talking about that in our next tutorial, on how you can be able to determine how many times a certain section of your program should be executed. Now in this particular part we are going to concentrate only on conditionals control structures. Now when we talk about conditional control structures, we have the first one called the if statement. Now in this particular if statement, is basically that the program looks at a certain condition, determine whether it is currently true or false, and acts accordingly. Yeah, so it's just to check if a program is able to meet a certain condition. If yes, and then it executes. Yeah, if no, it just halts. It doesn't give us any statement, or it doesn't tell us anything. Now for example, here we have the syntax. We have got two ways to be able to carry this out. We have what we call a single line syntax. So a single line syntax, basically you just write if, and then you put the expression. When you talk about expression, basically it's just the condition that need to be met so that that particular program to be executed. Now after the condition, you have stated the condition into these particular brackets. Then you open the curly bracket, and then you just put inside there the statement that is supposed to be executed, like that. Yeah, now if you want to have what you call clarity, or sometimes you have got multiple statements to be executed, it is always recommended that you use the block syntax. Now in the block syntax is to say that the first line of your program will have what we call the if, and then the statement, the expression, the condition that is supposed to be met. And if that particular condition is met, then statement 1, statement 2, blah blah blah, statement up to statement n is supposed to be executed. That is what we call the block syntax. Now let's see an example. Down here we have an example. This is what we call a block statement, and then we are saying that if total sales is not equal to 0, then can you be able to calculate this, calculate the gross margin. Yeah, so this just to tell you that in this particular case we are applying just to check if the total sales is not 0, then you are allowed to calculate the gross margin. And that's why we are saying total sales minus total expenses, and then divide by total sales, and then you get the gross margin. Now if statement test in this particular example is generous, because it ensures that the divider in this particular section in this calculation is never 0. So by doing this, you're just trying to ensure that that particular program is not going to divide anything by 0, by making sure that you specify in this particular condition in this particular case. Yeah, so this is just a way to make sure that the program does not divide this result that you have gotten here by 0. Yeah, So that is it about the if statement. But now the programmers thought about this. For example, now I have got an error. Yeah, yes, the condition is not met, but let's give the user something. Let's give the user something. Let's not just leave the user like that. Let's give the user something to be able to look at it. Now that's why they introduced what we call the if and then the else block. Now if we have talked about it, is meant the first is going to help us to execute when the condition is true, but else is meant to capture when the condition is false. Now this is to say that we have got the syntax here. We have if and then expression, statement if true, and then else is supposed to capture when the statement is false. Now the expression is a comparison or a logical expression. Yeah, so in our previous video we have been looking at different types of operations or different types of expressions. We talked about comparison. Now talking about comparison, you're talking about identity, you're talking about equal, you're talking about greater than, you're talking about less than. Those are what we call comparison. If you missed that video, kindly go to my YouTube channel and check that video. If you also, we talked about logical expression, we talked about the and, we talked about the or, we talked about the not. Those are some of the expression we have discussed in our previous videos. Now when you talk about expression, it's supposed to capture these two, any of these two, that returns a true or a false. As we were discussing in our previous video, we say that in this particular two expression, you only expect two results, either a true or a false. Now statements if true represent the block of statement you want JavaScript to run if the expression returns true, and then false when the when JavaScript returns are false. So this is just to say that it has got two parts. That is, the first block is supposed to take the true section, and then the second section is supposed to take the false block. Now going here, we have got an example of what I'm talking about. We have got a var which is say discount rate, and then we are taking that we are checking if the current month is identical to December. If the current month is identical to December, remember we talked about this operator called identity operator. So they are checking if the current month is identical to December, and then can you be able to apply the discount rate of 0.2. Else, if there is any other month, then can you be able to apply this discount. Yeah, and then here we are calculating the discounted price. So in case it's December, 0.2, in case it's another month, then you apply 0.1. Now if else are very similar to ternary, remember we looked at ternary operator in our previous video. Now in this particular case, you can apply the ternary operator in this if else. Yeah, now in this particular case, we are looking at the ternary operator that has been applied in this particular expression. This is just to say that we have var greeting is equal to current hour is less than 12. So this is just to check that if the current hour is less than 12, then what should you do? Give us this particular output, good morning. Else, if the current hour is greater than 12, then give us this output, good day. So by ternary operator, you can be able to implement the if else statements. You can be able to implement the if else statement. We talked about this at large, and even we did an exercise in my previous video. Kindly go to that video, and even you can be able to get more knowledge of how ternary operators are very powerful in terms of web development, and how it is going to be applied as a shorthand operator in your web development to make you develop quickly. Yeah. Now going to further, we go to the next part, that is the switch statement. A switch statement basically provides an expression at the beginning, and then it lists a series of possible values for that particular expression. Now it happens sometimes you have got 4-5 expressions that you are supposed to make. Sometimes it's not possible for you to do that. Therefore there is need for you to be able to apply the switch statement, and the switch statement is very simple. That let's get an expression, and you have talked about expression like being maybe a condition that is supposed to be met. Now for each possible result, you have what is called a case. Now it depends with how many possible results you are expecting. So if the user gives you this input, what is the case that is supposed to be fetched, and like that you provide one or more JavaScript statement to execute should the case prove to be true. Now in this particular case, we have the syntax for that case, switch statement. So you can see we have the switch keyword is a switch is a keyword, then inside the brackets you have the expression, then here we have the case is also a keyword, case is also a keyword, and then give us the case number, or give us the case type. Yeah, then after that give us the statement, and then you always end a case with a break. So break means basically move from this particular case. Break means move from this particular case and go to the next case. Okay, now in case all these statements are not going to meet the conditions, then you are allowed to go for default. So a default part basically is meant to capture in case all the cases are not met. So a default part will be able to be captured. Now expression must return a value. So here we are being told what an expression should give us. So an expression is either a numeric, should give us a return of a numeric, a string, or a boolean. So it depends with what you want to execute. Okay, so that is it about that particular syntax. Now going further, we can go for an example. You can go for an example here, and then you can just say that we have got here a screenshot of this code. Maybe I can be able to pull it up so that all of people can be able to see better on screen. So we have got this particular program here. In this particular program, we are saying that we have a variable called days in month. So that's a variable, and then inside the switch we have what we call month name. Now you can be able to see that whatever we are writing as the case name is the month name. So the expression that you use inside the switch will determine the case name that you use in each and every case. Now here we are concentrating on the month name, and that's why we are having January, we are having February, we are having March, we are having April, we are having May, we are having June, July, August, September, October, like that. And under that you are having different number of days. Yeah, so this output, this particular program when it runs is supposed to give you an output of how many days does that month have. But there's some concern on the month of February. That's why you can see we are applying the if. Now if that year, the year value is divisible by 4, then it is a leap year. Yeah, else it is supposed to give us 28 days. So when it's a leap year, you realize that it is 29 days. But if it is a normal year, you just get 28 days. So that is it about that particular program. And then you can see here we're having the switch is based on the name of the month. I've already explained that, and that's why we are using the month name. And then we are saying that the case statements are set up for each month. So you can see down here how each and every case is going to be set up. Yeah, so that is it. Something that I just wanted to mention that is very important: sometimes you have what we call the nesting of multiple if statement. Now this is just possible when you have got multiple conditions. So for example, you are dealing with the grades of students. Yeah, you have the grades of students, and therefore there are multiple if statements that you are supposed to execute. Now in this particular case, you are allowed to use what you call nested or nesting multiple if statement. Yeah, so you can have multiple if statement displayed, and then you can be able to have in each and every if statement or if else statement that you have, it is going to give you a certain input. Here we have got syntax for that nesting of multiple if statements, and then you can see we have got the condition, we have got the keyword if, else if, and then the expression. Then you have another one like that. You can have as many as possible. Like here we have an example. We have an example here that we have the variable greeting, and then we are saying if the current hour is less than 12, give us this greeting of good morning. Else if current hour is less than 18, give us this greeting. And else if the greeting, if it's going to give you any other input, kindly give us the greeting to be good evening. So, and then you have an alert to display the output. So you can have the alert to display the output. So that is it about the nesting. So we have been able to talk about very important four important conditional statements. We have talked about the if statement, we have talked about the if else statement, we have talked about the nesting multiple if statements, and then we have talked about the switch statement. Now, how will you tell that in this particular exercise I'm supposed to apply the if statement, in this particular activity I'm supposed to apply the if statement, if else statement, in this particular activity I'm supposed to apply the switch? So it just depends with how many conditions you have been given. It just depends with how many conditions you have been given, and in that particular case it will determine which type of conditional statement you will be going for. So just look at the number of statements that you have been given, and then you can be able to work around it so that you can be able to get the right conditional statement to apply. Okay, so those are some of the areas. Now here I have got an exercise for you, that will test your ability to apply this particular exercise, to test if you can be able to apply this particular activity. Okay, just a minute. Okay, just to check if you have understood. So we are going to create a script that checks the current hour and print the greeting based on the time, either morning, afternoon or evening. Then build a symbol calculator using an if and a switch statement. So those are some of the two exercises that I want you to do it. Kindly pause the video and do it. Alright, I hope you have given it a trial. Let's try to do it together and see what is some of the responses that is required of you. So the first thing that you need to do is you just need to create the JavaScript HTML. So you can see this is the code for HTML, and then inside here we don't have a lot of things. You have just added the link to our JavaScript file. So this is the link to our JavaScript file. So if you missed our video on how to add the link, can you go to our video on how to integrate JavaScript in HTML, and then you'll be able to see this link added. So we just move to our script, and therefore we're going to write our script here. So basically in this case we are just going to write const current hour, car hour is equal to new date and then you're supposed to have that because it's a function. So in this function is going to give us the current date, and then inside that current date you are going to get the current hour. And then we have that. So these are two functions. So this first function, date, is supposed to give us the current date, and then the second function is supposed to give us the current hour in that particular scope. Then you move to the next line of code. We say let greetings. So remember we talked about the variables, and we talked about the var, we talked about the let, and then how it is going to be applied. So if you missed the video, kindly go to our initial video, and check what is the difference between the two and how can you be able to apply that. Now here we have the current hour. Current hour is less than. So if you say current hour is less than or equal to 5, and so we talked about these logical operators, and we say car hour is less than 12. So we do that, and then we can give greeting for that particular part, like that is equal to good morning. Good morning. Then you move to the next line, and then you say else if. Okay, just go there and say else if we can put into bracket again if car hour is greater than or equal to 12. Car hour is less than or equal to 12, and car hour is less than 18. Yeah, car hour is less than 18. Then you're supposed to give this output here. You're supposed to say that greeting is equal to good morning, good afternoon, good afternoon. Then we have the last part, which is else. So you can just say else here, and then you say that greeting is equal to good morning, good evening. Yeah, so you write that program like that, and then we can have a console. You can just have a console part that is going to help us to get the output, console.log, and then we are going to use greeting. So it's just going to display to us the greeting that we are going to get like that. So by doing that, we try to run this program and check the output. So when I refresh this page of mine, when I refresh it, I go to inspect. I go to inspect, and then based on my current hour is good afternoon. So if I check my time down here, my time here is 5:53 at the moment. Therefore you can see it is displaying good afternoon, and that is true. You can see this is 5:15, and therefore it is giving us that. And then you go to our current program, and then you check it is in this particular category here, 12 to 18. Yeah, so that is it. It is giving us the right value. So that is it about that particular program. Now we go to the second program. Just go to the second program. We say that build a simple calculator using if and switch statement. So that is a statement. Basically, you have not been told if the user is supposed to give you input. You can just give the predefined input. You can just say let a is equal to 20, and then you can just say that let b is equal to 15. So we can just work with those default values. But in case you have been told that the user is supposed to give you input, you are supposed to use prompt. So you give us prompt, and then the user is allowed to enter those values. Then we can also be able to define the result. So this one is the one that will enable to display the results to us. Yeah, depending on the input that the user has given unto us. Now we need to define the operators. We need to define the operators that are supposed to be used. Now in this particular case, we are going to create a const operator, and then a const operator basically is going to help us to get the operation that the user is meant to perform. The operation that the user is meant to perform. For example, addition, multiplication, division. Those are what we call operators. So we are going to use the operators on the cases, so that in case he enters maybe an operator like a plus sign, we know that he wants to do the addition. If he enters a minus, then we know that he wants to do subtraction. If he enters an asterisk, then it means he wants to do the multiplication. So that's what we want to use in this particular program. Now you are going to enter, in this case you are going to say enter an operator. You can just say enter an operator, and then into bracket we can just give those operators that we want them to enter. So that is just user support to ensure that they do the right thing according to what we expect them to do. So asterisk, for example, he enters the asterisk, and then we can also have a forward slash for division. So all these are what the statements that you expect them to give us, and then you can have that. So we have said enter. I think it's supposed to be inside here, just to be on the safe side. We have said enter this, and then we have opened this bracket here, and then you are supposed to close it here, and then after closing it there, we are meant to give the full colon, and then we close the double quotation mark, and then we have got a semicolon at the end. So that is it about that statement. And then after doing that, we just go to now the switch. So we go to switch, and then we say switch into bracket operator. So the operator in this case is the one that is going to serve us our expression, and then we meant to have that, and then we just have case 1, case plus. So whatever we are going to expect is of a string. So whatever input that the user is going to give in this particular case, it is going to be treated as a string. That's why I'm using the single quotes. The single quotes in this case means that the input that I'm going to be given, it's of a string. That's why I'm using that in that particular case. Always after that you are supposed to use the full colon, so it marks the beginning of your case. So in this case we are going to say result is equal to, then we say A plus B. So that's the result, A plus B. And then after that you are supposed to have a break. So we have explained what a break is in just some few minutes ago. Then we copy this. I can just copy this part like this, or maybe I can just continue, just say case 2 or that, then minus inside there, and then you can just say result A minus B. A result is equal to A minus B. So then you have a break. Then after doing that, you move to the next part here. Just say case. Now this particular case you have multiplication. Multiplication is just the same. Division, the others are just the same, but there's something that I just wanted to mention about the division. Sometimes you have got division that you are avoiding to have division by 0. So when maybe the user is giving you input and you want to make sure that whatever is giving you is not 0, because if you divide by 0 it's going to give you an error. So it's important for you to be able to specify that do not divide it by 0. So I'm going to say that in this case, maybe for this particular one, yeah, I'm just going to say that if you can just say that if B is equivalent to 0, okay, identical to 0, then what you're supposed to do is that in this case you're just supposed to give us a statement like you return. For example, you can say return can't, okay, and just say can't divide by 0. Can't divide by 0. That is the statement that is going to be executed in case you have B as 0. And in case that statement, if B is not 0, and then you can just continue with your program execution. You just say result is equal to A divided by B, just like that, and then you end with break. Okay, then after that we can go to the last default. You can just say default, you can just say default, and then you can just say that return enter valid operator, like that. Okay, then after doing that we can just have something that can give us the output. You can just say if result is not defined or is not identical to undefined. Remember, undefined and defined, these are variable data types. So if it is not undefined, then can you be able to output or alert the results to us? Alert You can just say alert, and then you can just say the result is, just say the result is, then you put that full colon, and then outside there you put plus, then you just say result, like that. So by so doing, it means that it's going to give us an output once the user has given us the that. So if I save this and then I try to run this program, see if it's going to give us the output that we require. So you can see by default it's not running. Yeah, so it means there is an error somewhere. So if I do this and then I go to my console to inspect, let me go to inspect and see if there is an error. So they are telling us that in line 33 we have an illegal return statement. So we need to get rid of that statement there. So basically this is how you go about it. You're just supposed to change, maybe you can use the word alert. So let me just write here alert instead of return. Return is mainly used in a function, but if you use alert, it is okay. So you can just say alert can't divide by 0. So that is it. So if you do that, you are just going to get rid of this particular error in this case. Yeah, so I can as well do this in this case where we have another that there. What I'm doing is I'm trying to avoid using the function, because maybe we have got another video on functions, and then by that particular time I think you'll be ready to use functions. So I just want to make sure I use things that you can be able to understand quite easily. Boom, that is it. We have it there. So you can see there's no error. The errors have been checked out. So we just go and add there, for example, a plus, and then when you do that, you click there, you give us the results. So the results is 35. Now you click OK, and then you can continue going to the next thing. You can just say minus, and then you run that, and then it's giving us 5, which is very much correct. Now let's do the last one, division. So if I just do division, I just use that string of a division, and then I just run that, it's giving us a correct value. So those are the two areas that I really wanted us to try to test ourselves on, and then these exercises are very important to keep you going in terms of your practice. Thank you so much for listening. Kindly remember to click on the subscribe button, and also you can support me by clicking on the notification button, so that when I create the next video, you will be informed. Bye bye for now.